Hi, welcome or welcome back to the channel. Vanessa here. In today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to hand knit this baby blanket. This was the first time I ever hand knitted anything, or knitted for that matter. And I was so excited that I made this. This was for a colleague because she just gave birth to a baby girl. It was so cute. I really packaged everything. This blanket measures 19 inches without stretch by 28 inches. This tutorial is measurement based, so if you don't have the same size of yarn, you can just use my measurements to achieve the same blanket. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So all you need is whatever chunky or fluffy yarn that you've got, your measuring tape and your hands. Let's get into the yarn that I use because I'm going to be giving you my own yarns. So I use this yarn by Knitco. I'm going to leave the link there in the description box. I bought it from TikTok shop. It says it's 250 grams and it's a size 6 yarn. So I'm just going to measure, put it on the scale so you guys can see. It says 250, but it's actually 255, which I think is a good deal. I bought it off of TikTok shop and I used 2 balls for this entire project. So we're going to get started right away. Personally, I like to start with the center pull. You can start with the outside part of the yarn. Now always make sure that you always have loose thread, okay? Don't keep your yarn in the ball because that's going to affect your tension. Alright, so we are going to start off by making a slip knot. I make these parts really slow, so even if you don't know how to make a slip knot, you can see it. So I'm starting off by making a slip knot just like so, and then I am going to pull it to secure. Then I am going to start pulling the loop from the main yarn through that slip knot. Okay, so insert your finger into the knot and pull up a loop. If you don't want to insert your finger, you can push it with your left finger. You can push the main yarn from your left with your left finger into the loop just like that. So I've just done 2 chains. Then you can push it again just like that, and then you pull it through. So you keep pushing and you pull it through. So make sure you always have loose yarn. If you don't have loose yarn, you're going to keep pulling from the main ball and it's going to affect your tension. So just make sure that you always have loose yarn throughout this project. Also, the written pattern of this project is up on my Etsy shop. You can check this out if you prefer written patterns. So you're just going to keep making loops like this until you get to 19 inches. Personally, I did do 20 of these chains, and I did say that it was 19 inches unstretched at the start of the video because as you go on it does stretches, and to mine did stretch into about 22 inches. So yeah, just to let you know that that's what happened to me. So I did a total of 20 loops and this is what it's looking like. You need to be careful when you're doing your loops. Don't make them too tight and don't make them too loose. You just have to make sure, if you want to know that your loop making is correct, you're not going to visually like see holes in the first chain. And I'm going to show you a comparison at some point in this video of how a loose beginner chain looks like and how it's going to make the entire project look like as well, and it's not going to look nice. Okay, so this is what our 20 chains look like, and you're going to see I'm going to like stretch it for you so you can see that it is still stretchable. So it was 19 inches unstretched, but when I stretch it at the end of the project, it stretched on its own at the end of the project and it came up to be about 22 inches. Okay, so this is where we start our blanket. You're going to take that loop and then you're going to twist it just like this. Make sure that loop is small and make sure that the 20th chain is small because you don't want to have like a very big hole at the corner. Okay, I'm going to twist that loop just like that and I'm going to pull my yarn through. Another tip for you, make sure that your yarn is facing the direction that you are knitting to. Okay, you're going to see me flip my yarn in the direction that I'm going to in a second. So I'm just demonstrating it again. You're going to take that last loop and you're going to twist it to the left and you are going to push the main ball of yarn through, and that starts the first chain of the first row. Okay, so this is me. I'm just showing you. Make sure that that 20th loop is nice and small. It's not too big because by the time you're working the blanket up, it is going to look too loose for a corner, and you're going to realize that just as you're knitting this blanket. So that is our first chain. So we are going to go into the second chain and then we're going to be pulling up loops. So this is me just demonstrating that your your yarn should be in the direction that you're working in. And remember, still have loose yarn. So this is me just pulling up loops through the chains just like that. And my loops are about 1.5 inch. I'm going to measure it just so you know. My loops are about 1.5 inches. So that's what it's measuring right there. So you're going to keep on pulling up loops. Make sure that the loops are not too small, or your blanket is just going to look too tight. And make sure they're not too loose either, or the holes are just going to appear, just too big for a blanket. So you're just going to keep pushing the loops in just like that. Try to make sure that you've got even tension and equal tension, and you're going to pull these loops all through the 20 chains that you started from at the beginning. And when you get to the last chain, you're just going to pull up the last loop just like so, and just like that you're done with row number 1. Now I didn't really count the rows in this project, so like I said, it was measurement based. Okay, this entire project is measurement based. So that's row number 1 done. Row number 2 is literally the same thing. It is a repeat pattern. You're just going to keep on pulling the loops through. Keep pulling all the loops through. Now, as you can see, I'm just pulling out all the yarn that I can, because I want to be able to have control over my tension with the loose yarn. So insert your yarn in there, pull up a loop, insert your yarn, pull up a loop, and I'm just going to let you guys watch so you can understand it for yourself. Here's a tip for you while you're making these loops. Make sure that the beginning and the end loops of your project are a bit smaller than the regular loops. This is because I find that when you make them like the same size, they tend to have like a loose braided edge. So if you want them to have like a smooth and straight braided edge, make sure that the beginning and end of the loops are a tad smaller. Please, if you have any questions down in the comment section, you can ask me. I'm going to answer. And I did mention that I did get this yarn from TikTok shop, so I'll leave the link in the description box. It is on my showcase on my TikTok. So just 2 balls of yarn is great for this entire project because I use 2 balls. Yeah, so this is just a repeat pattern. You're just going to keep pulling loops through. Keep pulling loops through until you get to your desired length. So like I said, mine was a total of 28 inches for the entire length. So just keep doing that till you get to the end. Now I'm going to show you what your project will look like if you did start your blanket with a very loose beginning. So this is the other ball of yarn that I started to demonstrate it. So as you can see, I started the first chains, beginning chains, very loose. And very loose chains, you're going to end up with a very loose knit stitch like this, and it's going to be very holy as well, and I don't think any of us want that. So yeah, I just thought that it's a nice imagery to show you guys, so you know how to control your tension and get the best tension out of all of this. So this is what the blanket is looking like after the first ball of yarn. Honestly, if you do hold it horizontally, it's going to make like a perfect tiny blanket for a baby. But I wanted this to be like a baby blanket for like up to 2 years old. I know she was a newborn, but I wanted it to be a bit bigger. So just 1 ball of yarn can make you a cute small blanket, and that was the measurement right there. So I just attached my second yarn and I started building up again, pulling up loops, and this is what we ended up with. Okay, so now I'm at the end. This is what the entire blanket looks like. I'm at the end of the project, and if you're running out of yarn, make sure you leave around 3 or 4 meters of yarn at the end, because the last part, that is the binding of, which we're doing right now, it needs like a lot of yarn. So I'd rather you have excess yarn than shortage of yarn, because these loops that we are pulling, they need to be at least twice the size of the normal loops that you've been pulling throughout your entire project. Okay, as you can see, I'm making these loops really long because to bind off, we are going to loop the yarn around itself or around themselves, And this is going to give it like a braided edge. Okay, this is me here. The yarn that I had left was very small, but I didn't want to risk it, then start do a row, then start doing these long loops, then I'll have to unravel again, to make sure that I have enough yarn. So I did have a bit of yarn left, which is absolutely fine. That is fine. Yeah, so this is me. When you're done pulling up all the long loops, you're going to go back to where you start pulling up the loops from, and you are going to twist the yarn to the back, and you're going to pull up a loop, twist the yarn again. No need to twist it this time, just keep pulling up the loops, pulling the loops through just like that. Pull loops through itself, and this is going to give it like a cute braided edge. Okay, so just keep pulling the loops through just like that until you get to the end. Okay, so we've got a nice braided border right there, and you're just going to cut off the yarn. Make sure it's a very long tail, don't cut it too short, because there is a possibility of this yarn unraveling if you cut it too short. There's a possibility of it unraveling, so you're just going to pull that tail through, and then you are just going to tuck it into the back, and you can sew it as well. That is completely up to you. You can sew that edge. So this is it. Like I said, it was shedding a bit. I have other videos under this blanket tutorial that is going to be up. I'm going to put it like in the core section of this channel. So I'm going to have other videos, and that is to show you how to add more yarn, how to add more color, how to change color, and how to stop your yarn from unraveling. So these are other videos. If you want to check it out in the channel, I'm going to put them in the core section of this. It's going to be free, it's not going to be paid. It's just going to be in the core section or a playlist for just this blanket, this baby blanket. It's going to have other videos involving these topics that I've spoken about. So this is me just tucking in the edge, all the ends, and yeah, that's just everything of this blanket. This is me just doing the last measurement, and like I said, it was about 28 inches. I did try to maintain my attention throughout the project. It can be a bit hard, but yeah, it is good to mention to keep the tension throughout the entire project. So that's it, 28 inches. And that is everything for this video. It's a nice warm fluffy blanket that you can do for anyone as a gift. You can even do it if you're doing like a yarn related business type of thing. Yeah, so this was so pretty, this was so good. I hope you liked the tutorial. Ask me any questions down in the comment section, and I'm going to see you in the next video.